Hey guys, yeah, I'm kind of recording this on my phone before I go to work. I got about 20 minutes before I have to leave or so to catch the bus. But I wanted to come on here and again continue the series that I started called Shootin' Straight with You. And this, of course, will be number 4, I believe. And what I want to shoot straight with you here is, well, basically the fact that, you know, when it comes to following certain content creators on certain platforms, there are stories that they will create and people will gain interest in that suddenly they abruptly stop. Now sometimes they'll let you know that they're stopping it to focus on other stories. Other times they'll just stop abruptly with no announcement. And once in a while they'll peek their head through and say, "Hey, I'm still around. I'm just doing this now for a bit." And after a while, you don't hear from them again. Um, and I've talked about this before in another video about a year or two ago. And I asked the question of whether or not in that video that if, whether or not we should continue, we as fans, as followers, should continue the stories for the creators that, originally created them if they're not going to come back to them, or if it's going to be a while before we even see any end result. And I had some mixed reactions. Some actually did agree that it would be a good idea to probably do that. And the reason some people said that is because, well, if you're a fan of the story and others are fans of the story, what better way to try to, breathe life back into it than to, do it yourself. And that's shooting straight with you right there, because it's a fact. It's a fact. I mean, when you look at a lot of these fan projects, like, for example, Archie Sonic Online and another one called Sonic Retold, these are stories that are being basically written and collaborated on through storytelling and artisticness. They're being written and artistically collaborated on to allow the people behind these series to basically tell the story or finish the story the way they see it, or the way they saw it going, or the way they feel it should have gone. And you see that with Archie Sonic Online, because they're taking some of what Ian Flynn's original ideas were to an extent and going off in a new direction with them, basically staying true to what the original plans were somewhat, but going in a different direction. Sonic Retold by, I think, Glitcher on DeviantArt and other places, is just a retelling of how certain issues could have gone or would have gone if not for some of the behind the scenes situations and stuff, but do it with a more darker tone. Like really, really go in areas and directions that basically normally you wouldn't expect them to go in, pretty much. And that's and honestly, guys, if you want to see what I'm talking about, just look them up online, look them up on DeviantArt. That's a straight shoot right there. That's exactly what these stories, these interpretations are. So when it comes to stories like, let's say, one of the people I follow on DeviantArt is Minor Dash Alterations, and he had several series he was working on at the time. He had one that was named after the character by Mr. Internet Man called Demonica, who was basically not only a featured character in his story of the same name, basically her name basically being the title of the story, but it also focused on another character, and that is Minor Dash Alterations' original creation, Ruby Walker. And long story short, these two started off a little on the wrong foot, got to know each other better, got intimate. Ruby got to experience, what Demonica is capable of with her powers, even get a taste of what it would be like to have those powers. And let's just say one of Ruby's favorite pastimes now, if not times to relax, like let's say she's coming home from work, is to become a puddle of liquid goo and basically act like she doesn't exist. Well, he was working on that, and he ended that sort of like on a little bit of a cliffhanger to where not only did Ruby Walker see who the girl or the woman was behind Demonica, but it also hinted at the fact that Ruby may now permanently have the same kind of powers as Veronica / Demonica. But that was about it. Another story he was working on, if you will, another story he was working on, and I was just checking the time there, even though I can see how much I've been going here on this video with the phone. But anyway, another story he was working on was the model and the symbiont. And he kind of ended that sort of on a somber, bitter note and everything. And shooting straight with you guys, I was not particularly a fond of, okay, let me rewind. All right. What I'm trying to say is his model and the symbiont story that he was also working on at the time ended sort of on a bitter, somber, note, if you will. And honestly, I wasn't a fan of that. And neither was a lot of other people. And shooting straight with you guys, I don't think Minor Dash Alterations was a fan of it either. I don't think they liked the idea that they had ended it on that note. So what I did later on, after not seeing the story being concluded or continued, was I decided to kind of take it upon myself to kind of start, where the middle of the story, the 4th chapter, was kind of getting interesting. Because you see, it was towards the end, I would say almost towards the late, mid part of the story, like it's the ending of Act 2 going into Act 3 kind of deal. And I decided, instead of going in the direction that Minor Dash Alterations wanted to go, I decided to go in a direction that I felt would be more suitable, that I felt is storyline-wise more appropriate. Because if you're going to have the friend that is kind of telling her other friend who has this new ability thanks to this symbiont, who's trying to be friendly and everything, trying to understand and learn along the way, if you're having this other friend who's into the supernatural, into the unknown, who's into the sci-fi and the weirdness and all that, telling her friend, hey, get this under control or something, and then walking off, leaving her friend in tears. Again, to me, that was not a good way to end the story. But like I said, in what I consider the end of the, kind of going into the end of the 2nd act and into the 3rd act, you had the friend that obviously has feelings for this other friend, through the influence of the symbiont. And the symbiont, basically, I think, believes that they're only trying to help, make the other friend realize that, hey, this friend here that now has me, that I'm using now as a host, this friend here has feelings for you, and she's trying to slowly let you know about that. She's trying to slowly, let you understand that, or get you to open your eyes to that. And basically, what happened at what I consider the end of the 2nd half into the 3rd half is now that you have this friend who's hosting the symbiont. They're basically now one and the same. That you have them kind of gooey, going gooiness all over the body of her photographer friend, because that's what she is. She's kind of a photographer, and she's just going gooey all over her and everything, and her friend's kind of getting into it, but it's kind of like unsure. And one of the things they say before the original ending of the story, or at least that part of the story anyway, is they tell her that they want to let her know what it feels like, and that they would love to be her suit all day. In other words, they want her to wear them, as, if she's their suit, and, just, know it's them, but not be known to anybody else kind of deal. But like I said, the way Minor Dash Alterations ended it on a bitter, somber note, as I said, it didn't really fit well with me or anybody else. So I decided to, like I said, continue from that part of the story, but this time have the photographer friend kind of get into it and be like, not only get into it, but kind of basically be like, yeah, I like this. I'm really into this. I get where you're coming from, kind of deal. And then basically say, you know what, let's continue this at my place, in the tub and all that and whatever. So, in other words, my continuation of the story, and I haven't yet finished it yet because of, work. I was looking for work and everything, and that's a straight shoot. And as a result, you could see the result, if you know what I mean. Um, but basically, to me, what should happen is you should have, the photographer friend get into it and be like, you know what, I want to know more about this. I kind of feel where you're coming from, and then have them go back to her place where they can get intimate. And maybe who knows, maybe I could, write in a part where the symbiont, gives the photographer friend a bit of herself, and the photographer friend gets to experience what her friend's feeling. Who knows? Who knows? I might consider that. Not saying I will. Um, but the point is, though, when I look at the fact that I want to go in that direction with it, and then I kind of look at doing what I've done before, like I said, with the one shots. Like I did, a one shot of Briella and Crystal, where Crystal, from from metamorphosized to malleability, is temporarily given the same kind of abilities and powers as a girlfriend Briella, because Briella's found a way to do that for her. When I did that story, even though it was a one shot, to me, I feel, and again, I did this in that video where I asked what the end goal was, what the end goal was going to be in all this. I did that because I feel, even with that one shot, and like I said in the recent video, I feel that that's going to be the direction, probably the end game, the end goal of the entire series for DeviantART, for Michelle. That she's going to probably give Crystal the same abilities as Briella, because I think, Michelle DeviantART, kind of acknowledges in her own way that that's what fans are anticipating, that fans pretty much know that that's what's around the corner. And again, in recent, chapters / shifts, as she calls them, there's been a lot of hints dropped that that's exactly the direction she's heading, but we don't know that just yet. But to me, when I did that one shot, and then I kind of did that extension of Shift Chapter 1, 184, and I called it 184.5, and, it kind of continued where the original 184 chapter ended, and the end result was, they kind of temporarily fused, not the way they would in the one I did, but temporarily, to where it's like, only thing that you could see was fused, I should say, was their face and kind of the voices combining, and that was it. To me, again, I did all that because I feel that's the direction, that is the goal Michelle is heading towards. Like I said, I'm not entirely sure. Don't quote me on that. But it seems it's just giving off those kind of vibes. Like when you go to a movie and everything, you go to a movie and and let's say it's a movie based on a franchise, and there's going to be more movies to come, right? And you start seeing these subtle hints and Easter eggs being dropped of something happening, or something coming, somebody coming, or whatever, right? And when you see this, you start speculating, okay, who could it be, or what is it that's going to happen? And then when you kind of see who it's going to be, or you kind of see, what it's going to be, you kind of, think to yourself, man, my speculation was almost on the ball of knowing who it was going to be or what it was going to be and everything. And that's what a lot of fans like myself do when we do these one shot of other characters from other content creators, or we do extensions, of certain chapters or shifts of, featuring these characters, but going in a direction that, the original author, artist, whatever, has yet to go in, because we can pretty much feel and speculate and understand that might be what they're hinting at, but we're not entirely sure. Another person that I follow on Patreon is Joven16. And Joven16, basically, Joven16 is known for doing the Nano Shift, the Nano Dash Shift series, and he ended it basically somewhat on a cliffhanger where the main character Jay, who is now a human comprised of nanobots, liquid nanobots, kind of had a bit of like almost a relapse, a seizure, or whatever, and she collapsed into a puddle of nanobot goo, and that was it. And the next thing, and the last thing we know about is two new characters showing up off panel to confront her friends to tell her, "Hey, we know what's going on. Let us explain." But that's all we see. And I think the reason for that is not only does Joven 16 want to take a break from it, because it's one of the, if not the longest story they have done so far on the Patreon, but also the fact that, they could also, also the fact that it allows them to focus on other stories like Side Effects and Amanda and Nicole and stuff, but which are other two good series you should check out. But also the fact that I think that the reason they stopped was because of the fact that, they had no, they probably didn't know where to go from there, because they ended on a good cliffhanger, but the thing is they don't know where to go from there, because the next thing because I don't think they want the next thing people to see is just a conversation between these new characters and the friend and Jay's friends, and all you see of Jay is just her floating in this tube like it's a regular liquid, or like she's regular liquid trying to get her consciousness back together and stuff like that. So obviously he's still trying to plan exactly what the next step will be. So maybe he's taking suggestions, who knows. But the point is, there are going to be people in writing mode that will probably continue where he left off, because they could see where he was going, but maybe doing some writing and handing it off to him privately, saying, "Hey, this is where you should go," or "This is where I picture it going." That might be what's going on too, and that might be just their way of interpreting. Hey, this is how I see it happening. This is where I see it going. Maybe this will help you, but we don't see it. We don't see it because maybe it's just their own private way, private interpretation that they want to keep for themselves. But then maybe to help Joven 16 continue with the story, they're handing the ideas off to him, or to them, I should say. But the point I'm getting at, folks, is, the point I'm getting at, and shooting straight with you, is, when I look at, people not finishing these stories, or basically planning to, but in the near future, and what happens is life gets in front of them, whether it's work or just personal life, or maybe they just feel like they're not in the mood to do it anymore and everything, or there's stuff like that, or they do want to do it, but again, they need to find the time, or they need to figure out, okay, where do I go from here? To me, when I see this, okay, I can understand you want a break to mentally figure out where you're going to go with the story, as well as give yourself a mental break and physical break. That's fine. But shooting straight with you, I do not think that if you're going to take a break mentally and physically for yourself, and that's fine, you're all welcome to it. You have the right to do that. I don't think you should just leave it on a cliffhanger. I think shooting straight with you, you should let the people that enjoy your work to continue it for you in some capacity. I think you should let the fans know, hey, I'm not going to be doing this for a while, but if you want to continue it, you have my permission, or feel free to do it, no questions asked. And I guarantee you, there's a lot of people out there that will be wanting to do it. Trust me, there'll be a lot of people that'll be wanting to do it. So to me, shooting straight with you, I think original writers and artists, mostly writers of original stories or even fan fiction stories based on stuff that end, abruptly, sort of like on a cliffhanger or whatever, instead of not letting them know what's happening next, you should come out, in my opinion, shooting straight with you, in my opinion, and let them know, hey, I'm cool with you continuing my work if you want to continue it. And that's about it. Until they come back and say, okay, now I'm taking back over, if you will. But that's just shooting straight with you guys. I'm shooting straight with you on that. And that's all I can say. So thank you all for watching this 4th edition of Shooting Straight. I got to get myself ready for work here, guys. or at least to catch the bus. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Super thanks will be enabled after the premiere. And until then, guys, I'm out. Have a good day.